The massive ship cut through the darkness of space like a knife. It was the lead vessel of the Makari fleet, a collection of warships so large they could block out the sun of a small planet. At the center of the command bridge stood Grand Commander Taijo, his tall frame covered in the natural armor that all Makari possessed. His exoskeleton gleamed under the blue lights of the ship's control room. "Status report," Taijo said, his voice deep and confident. He had led the Makari to victory on over 30 planets. Earth would be no different. Intelligence Officer Hyun approached, her movements precise and efficient. Unlike Taijo's dark blue armor, hers was a lighter shade, marking her as part of the Science and Intelligence Division. "We will reach the third planet in this system within 6 hours, Commander," Hyun said. "Our scans show it is mostly covered in water, with 7 major land masses. The dominant species calls it Earth." Taijo nodded, another conquest for the glory of the Makari Empire. They had built their civilization over 2,000 years of space travel and warfare. No species had ever successfully resisted them. Their technology was too advanced, their warriors too strong. "What about their defenses?" Taijo asked. Hyun pulled up a holographic display showing primitive satellites orbiting the blue planet. "Minimal, Commander. They have not yet mastered true space travel. Their weapons are chemical-based projectiles and explosives. No energy shields, no gravity weapons. They are divided into approximately 200 political regions they call countries. They fight among themselves constantly." Taijo made a sound that passed for laughter among his kind. "Then this will be even easier than the conquest of Proxima 3. Another officer approached. This was Subin, the weapons master. "Should we prepare the gravity cannons, Commander? One shot could destroy their largest city as a demonstration." Taijo considered this. It was standard Makari practice to show their power first. Make the natives understand how hopeless resistance would be. "No," he decided. "Let's be efficient. Target their military bases first. Once their ability to fight back is gone, they will surrender quickly." The Makari ships continued their approach, unaware they had already been detected. Dr. Yoon-ho Kim stared at her computer screen in disbelief. The radio telescope data couldn't be wrong. Something massive was approaching Earth, and it wasn't a natural object. "Do-yoon, come look at this," she called to her colleague. Do-yoon Park hurried over, coffee mug in hand. His eyes widened as he saw the readings. "That's not possible," he said, putting down his mug. "Those objects are too large and moving too fast. And they're slowing down. Asteroids don't slow down." "Exactly," Yoon-ho said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I think we need to call someone. Now." Within an hour, the small observatory in South Korea was swarming with military personnel. General Tae-ho Lee arrived personally, his face grim as he reviewed the data. "How long have we known about this?" he asked. "I detected them 3 hours ago," Eun-ho explained. "But according to the trajectory, they've been approaching for days. They were just too far out for our equipment to detect earlier." The general nodded, then made a call. He spoke briefly in hushed tones before turning back to the scientists. "Dr. Kim, Dr. Park, your country needs you. This information is now classified, at the highest level. But I can tell you that you're not the only ones who have detected these objects. Observatories in 12 countries have reported similar findings." Yoon-ho frowned. "Sir, with all respect, if these are alien ships, the public should know." The general surprised her with a small smile. "Who said anything about alien ships, Doctor?" "What else could they be?" Do-yoon asked. "That's precisely what we need your help to determine," General Lee said. "But I will tell you this. We have been preparing for this possibility for longer than you might think." Back on the Makari command ship, Taijo received disturbing news. "Commander, we're detecting unusual signal patterns from the planet," reported Communications Officer Jinsu. "They appear to be encrypted military transmissions, and they're increasing rapidly." Taijo frowned. "Have they detected us already?" "It appears so," Hyun confirmed. "Their primitive detection systems shouldn't have been able to see us until we were much closer, but the signals indicate they're aware of our presence." It doesn't matter, Tejo said dismissively. They can see their doom approaching. It changes. Nothing. But Hyun looked troubled. Commander, there's something else. The signal, they're too organized, too coordinated for a species that's supposedly divided. Their military communications have increased by 400% in the last hour, but there's no sign of panic or disorder. Taijo waved his armored hand. Analysis paralysis, Hyun. You're overthinking. Primitive species often unite temporarily when faced with an external threat. It won't save them. As you say, Commander, Hyun said, but she continued studying the data with concern. In a secure underground facility beneath Seoul, Yunho and Do-yoon worked frantically with a team of international scientists. The room was filled with the best minds from around the world, all brought together in secret over the past few hours. The ships will enter Earth orbit in approximately 2 hours, announced a scientist from India. Their energy signatures are like nothing we've ever seen, added another from Brazil. The power they're generating, it's beyond our current understanding of physics. Yunho studied the 3D model of the approaching fleet. These smaller vessels here, she pointed, they're arranged in attack formation. They're not coming to say hello. General Lee entered the room accompanied by military leaders from several nations. Surprisingly, they didn't look panicked. They looked prepared. Ladies and gentlemen, the general announced, it's time to activate Protocol Sentinel. A murmur ran through the room. Yunho and Do-yoon exchanged confused glances. What's Protocol Sentinel? Do-yoon whispered to a nearby scientist. The woman who wore an American uniform gave a tight smile. Something we've been developing for 50 years just in case this day ever came. Let's just say humanity isn't as defenseless as our visitors might think. General Lee cleared his throat. Dr. Kim, your analysis of their energy signatures has been invaluable. We believe you're the right person to join the response team. Response team? Yunho asked. Yes, the general said. When they land, and they will land, we need our best minds ready to analyze their technology up close. You'll be part of the scientific team working alongside our diplomatic corps. They're sending diplomats? Do-yoon asked incredulously. Shouldn't we be evacuating cities, preparing for an attack? A Chinese general spoke up. That's already happening, but quietly. We don't want to show fear, and yes, we will attempt communication first. But make no mistake, we are prepared for conflict. The American scientist added, Humanity has imagined this scenario thousands of times, Dr. Park. We've made movies, written books, created entire cultural mythologies around the idea of hostile aliens. In a strange way, we've been psychologically preparing for this moment for generations. Yunho looked back at the display showing the approaching fleet. But their technology is advanced, yes, General Lee finished for her. But they don't know Earth, they don't know humans, and most importantly, they don't know what we know. Which is what? Yunho asked. The general's expression hardened. That any species aggressive enough to cross the stars looking for conquest has probably never faced real resistance. We may be their first surprise. As if on cue, the main screen flashed with an alert. The Makari fleet had accelerated. They would reach Earth within the hour. It begins, someone said quietly. And across the planet, humanity prepared to defend its home. The Makari ships entered Earth's orbit with military precision, forming a perfect triangle above the planet. From the ground, they appeared as new stars in the daylight sky, visible even through the clouds. Commander Seojin stood ready in the dropship, 20 elite Makari soldiers behind him. Their armor was thicker than regular troops designed for planetary assault. Each soldier carried a gravity pulse rifle that could tear apart tanks. Remember, Seojun told his troops, these humans will either run in fear or attempt primitive attacks. Either way, show no mercy. The faster we establish dominance, the fewer we need to kill. The soldiers nodded. They had done this many times before on other worlds. First the landing, then the show of force, then the quick surrender. It was almost boring in its predictability. Commander, said the pilot, Grand Commander Taijo has selected the landing zone. It's a region they call the Korean Demilitarized Zone. Scans show it's one of their most heavily monitored military areas. Seojin smiled behind his helmet. A perfect choice. Landing in their most sensitive military location would show the humans how powerless they truly were. "Take us down," he ordered. The dropship descended through Earth's atmosphere, followed by 2 escort vessels. As they approached the Korean peninsula, Seojin expected to see chaos below. Civilians fleeing, military vehicles rushing about, perhaps even primitive missiles being fired at them. Instead, the land below seemed strangely calm. There was movement, yes, but it was orderly. Military vehicles were positioned in neat formations. No panicked crowds, no random firing. "This is unusual," Seojin said quietly. The dropship landed in a large clearing near the DMZ border. The doors opened, and Seojin led his troops out onto Earth soil for the first time. The air was different from their home world, lighter, with more oxygen. The gravity was slightly weaker too. Not uncomfortable, but noticeable. "Establish a perimeter," Seojin ordered. "Activate shields." The Makari soldiers spread out, raising their weapons. Each soldier activated a personal energy shield, creating a blue glow around them. Then they waited for the humans to respond. Dr. Ji Woo Han checked her translator device one more time. Around her, the joint Korean-UN response team maintained perfect calm. They had trained for this scenario for years, though few believed it would ever happen. "Remember," General Lee told her, "you are humanity's voice now. Project confidence, not fear." Ji-woo nodded. She had studied 16 languages on Earth, and now she carried a device containing the Makari language, reconstructed from signals intercepted over the past 48 hours. It wasn't perfect, but it should work. "They've established a defensive position," reported a soldier monitoring drone footage. 20 troops in formation around their landing craft. "Are their weapons active?" asked the general. "Yes, sir. Energy readings suggest they're ready to fire." The general turned to Ji-woo. "It's time, Doctor. The diplomatic vehicle is ready." Ji-woo climbed into the white vehicle marked with the UN symbol. With her were representatives from 5 countries, all unarmed as agreed. As they drove toward the landing site, Ji-woo felt strangely calm. Years of diplomatic work in conflict zones had prepared her for high-pressure situations, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. Through the bulletproof glass, she saw the aliens for the first time. They stood about 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in what looked like natural armor enhanced with technological additions. Their helmets had no visors. Perhaps they could see through the material somehow. The vehicle stopped 100 meters from the Makari perimeter. Ji-woo and her team stepped out, walking slowly forward with their hands visible. Seojin watched the humans approach with surprise. They showed no fear. Even more shocking, there were only 6 of them, and they carried no visible weapons. "Commander," said one of his soldiers, "should we fire warning shots?" "No," Seojin replied. "Let them come. This might be their surrender party." The 6 humans stopped 20 meters away. One stepped forward, a female, based on the body structure. She raised her hand in what appeared to be a greeting gesture. Then she spoke, and Seojin's body went rigid with shock. "Greetings, warriors of the Makari Empire," the human said in nearly perfect Makari language. "I am Dr. Ji Woo Han, representing the United Nations of Earth. We welcome you to our world and wish to establish peaceful communication." The Makari soldiers looked at each other in confusion. How could this primitive species know their language, their name, even the name of their empire? Seojin stepped forward. "How do you speak our tongue?" he demanded. The human female, Ji-woo, smiled. "We have been listening to your transmissions for some time. We are quick learners." This was impossible. The Makari used encrypted quantum communications that couldn't be intercepted. Unless humans were far more advanced than they appeared. "I demand Earth's immediate surrender," Seojin stated firmly, falling back on protocol. "Resistance will result in planetary bombardment." Ji-woo's expression didn't change. "We understand this is your standard approach. However, we would like to invite you to a diplomatic meeting instead. There is much we could learn from each other." Seojin was speechless for a moment. This wasn't how first contacts usually went. The humans should be terrified, begging for mercy. Instead, they were inviting them to talks as if they were equals. "I must consult with my superiors," Seojin finally said. "Of course," Jiwoo replied. "We will await your response. In the meantime, please consider this area a neutral zone. We have established a 5-kilometer perimeter where no weapons will be fired from either side." As if to demonstrate this claim, Seojin noticed human military vehicles taking positions exactly 5 kilometers away in all directions. Close enough to respond quickly, but far enough to show respect for the neutral zone. It was a professionally executed military operation. Back on the Makari mothership, Grand Commander Taejo listened to Seojin's report with growing concern. "They knew we were coming," Taejo said. "That's the only explanation." Intelligence Officer Hyun was reviewing data on her console. "Commander, I've been analyzing their global information network, what they call the Internet. There's something you should see." She projected images onto the main screen. They showed Earth entertainment, movies, books, games. "What is this?" Taejo asked impatiently. "Sir, these are stories the humans tell each other about alien invasions." Hyun pointed to various images. Thousands of them, dating back nearly a century, and in many of these stories, humans defeat the aliens despite inferior technology. Taejo scoffed. "Fiction, fantasy." "Yes," Hyun agreed. "But don't you see? They've been imagining this scenario for generations. They've been psychologically preparing for our arrival without even knowing we exist." The commander stared at the screen, seeing humans battle fictional alien invaders in hundreds of different ways. "There's more," Hyun continued. "Their military response is too coordinated. Traditional rivals are working together seamlessly. It's as if they've rehearsed this." Taejo paced the command deck. This was not proceeding according to plan. The humans should be in disarray, their leaders hiding, their militaries failing to coordinate. Instead, they acted as if they had expected this day all along. "Order Commander Seojun to attend their diplomatic meeting," Taejo decided. "We need to understand what we're dealing with here." "And if it's a trap?" asked another officer. Taejo's face hardened. "Then we will show them why. The Makari Empire has never known defeat. Prepare the gravity cannons. If these talks fail, we will demonstrate our power in a way these humans cannot ignore." As the orders went out, Hyun continued studying the human entertainment files. In one story after another, she watched aliens arrive at Earth, confident in their superiority, only to be defeated by human ingenuity and determination. For the first time in her career, she felt something unfamiliar: doubt. Dr. Yoon Ho Kim worked furiously in the mobile lab near the DMZ. Every sensor available was directed at the Makari ships, collecting data on their technology. "Their power source," she told Do-yoon, pointing to her readings. "It's creating a field that distorts gravity itself. But look at these fluctuations." Do-yoon studied the readings. "It's not operating at full efficiency." "Exactly," Yoon-ho said. "Something about Earth's magnetic field or atmosphere or both is interfering with their technology." A military scientist joined them. He introduced himself as Colonel Min-jae Choi. "Dr. Kim, your findings confirm what we've suspected. Their technology isn't adapted to Earth-specific conditions." He showed them classified readings. "We've been monitoring their ships since they entered our solar system. Their power output dropped by nearly 40% when they entered our atmosphere." Hyun-ho looked up in surprise. "You expected this?" Colonel Min-jae's expression was serious. "Let's just say we've been preparing for possibilities. And right now we need you to find us a weakness we can exploit if diplomacy fails." As if to punctuate his words, a shadow passed overhead as another Makari ship descended toward the meeting point. The first contact was about to begin, and Earth's future hung in the balance. The diplomatic meeting took place in a large tent set up between the Makari landing craft and the human military perimeter. Inside, 2 tables faced each other. The human delegation sat on one side, led by Dr. Ji Woo-han. Commander Seojun and 3 Makari officers sat opposite them. We understand you have traveled far, Jiwoo said, her translator device converting her words to the Makari language. May we ask why you have come to Earth? Seojin's posture remained rigid. The Makari, Empire expands, that is our way. Your planet has resources we require, your people will serve the Empire. Jiwoo nodded as if this was a perfectly reasonable position. I see. And if we choose not to serve? Seojin made a clicking sound that the humans understood was laughter. Choice is not part of the equation. The Makari Empire has conquered 342 worlds. None have successfully resisted. One of the human delegates, an older man from Russia, leaned forward. And yet you sit here talking instead of conquering. Why is that, Commander? The question caught Seojin off guard. It was true. On other worlds, they would have already attacked major military installations. The diplomatic meeting was unusual protocol. Grand Commander Taejo wishes to minimize damage to Earth's infrastructure, Seojin said finally. It wasn't entirely true, but it sounded better than admitting they were confused by the human response. How considerate, Jiwoo said with a small smile. While we continue these talks, would you permit a demonstration of your technology? Nothing dangerous? Perhaps just a display of your gravity manipulation abilities? Seojin hesitated. The request seemed innocent enough, and showing humans their technology would likely encourage surrender. He nodded to one of his officers. The officer stood and placed a small device on the table. With a few commands, the device activated. A small rock beside it began to float, then spin in complex patterns. But something was wrong. The demonstration was meant to make the rock dance through the air with perfect control. Instead, its movements were jerky, and it rose only half as high as it should have. The Makari officer adjusted the settings, his movements betraying frustration. The rock responded sluggishly. Jiwoo and the other humans watched with interest, but not surprise, not the awe that such technology should inspire. Is something interfering with your device? Jiwoo asked innocently. Back in the mobile laboratory, Yunho watched the diplomatic meeting through a secure video feed. Beside her, Colonel Minjae studied the readings from their sensors. Their gravity device is operating at only 58% efficiency, Minjae said, just as we predicted. Do-yoon looked up from his computer. But why? What is it about Earth that affects their technology? Yunho pointed to her data. It's a combination of factors. Earth's magnetic field is stronger than most planets. Our atmosphere has a unique composition, and there's something about their power sources. They create a field that interacts poorly with our planet's natural gravity. Can we use this? Minjae asked. Yunho nodded slowly. I think so. Their ship's power cores operate on a specific frequency. If we could generate an electromagnetic pulse tuned to that exact frequency, we could disrupt their systems. Do-yoon finished her thought. Minjae looked impressed. How quickly can you develop this? Yunho studied the data again. With the right equipment, a day, maybe less. You have 6 hours, Minjae said grimly. Our intel suggests the Makari aren't known for patience. On the Makari mothership, Grand Commander Taejo watched the diplomatic meeting with growing anger. They're stalling, he growled. And worse, they're studying our technology. Intelligence Officer Hyun approached carefully. Commander, I've analyzed more of their global communications. They're sharing information about us at an incredible rate. Scientists around their planet are collaborating, pooling data, developing theories. About what? Taejo demanded. About how our technology works, Hyun said, and about potential weaknesses. Taejo slammed his armored fist on the console. Enough of this. It's time to show these humans real power. Prepare to target one of their uninhabited islands with the main gravity cannon. Let them see what happens when mountains are torn from the ground. Commander, Hyun objected. Our weapons aren't operating at full capacity in this environment. Perhaps we should. Are you questioning my orders? Taejo interrupted. Hyun lowered her head. No, Commander. Good. Target the island they call Jeju off the Korean coast. Minimal population, but close enough to demonstrate our power to their diplomatic team. The order went out. The massive gravity cannon on the mothership began to charge. At the diplomatic tent, a human aide rushed in and whispered something to Jiwoo. Her expression didn't change, but she stood up. "Commander Seojin, our sensors detect that your mothership is charging its main weapon," she said calmly. "Is this how the Makari conduct diplomatic talks?" Seojin received the confirmation through his communication link. "The Grand Commander has decided a demonstration is necessary. A small uninhabited island will be targeted. No humans will be harmed if your leaders cooperate." Jiwoo nodded. "I understand. In that case, this meeting is temporarily adjourned. We will withdraw to a safe distance." The way she said it, calm, unsurprised, bothered Seojin. It was as if the humans had expected this all along. Dr. Yoonho Kim was rushing through her calculations when the alert came through. "The Makari ship is targeting Jeju Island," Colonel Min-jae announced. "Everyone prepare for data collection. All sensors at maximum." Yoonho looked up in surprise. "You're not evacuating the island?" "Already done," Min-jae said. "The moment the Makari entered our solar system, we quietly moved people from potential target areas. Jeju was high on the list." "You knew they would attack there?" Do-yoon asked. "We didn't know," Min-jae corrected. "We calculated probabilities. Jeju is strategically valuable but has a relatively small population. It makes a logical first target for someone wanting to demonstrate power without causing maximum casualties." Yoonho was impressed. The level of preparation was beyond anything she had imagined. "All sensors ready," a technician called out. "Impact. In 30 seconds." They watched on the screens as the Makari mothership positioned itself above Jeju Island. A green light began to glow at the bottom of the massive ship. "Energy readings climbing," another technician reported. "They're firing." A beam of green light shot from the ship, striking the center of the island. The ground buckled and rose as if gravity itself had reversed. Rocks and earth lifted into the air, forming a floating mountain of debris. But something was wrong. The effect was limited to an area of about 1 kilometer. Based on the size of the weapon, it should have affected the entire island. "Their weapon is operating at less than 40% capacity," Min-jae said, looking at the readings. "Just as we hoped." The beam shut off after 30 seconds. The floating debris crashed back to Earth, leaving a crater where it had been torn from the ground. Destructive, yes, but far less than what the Makari had intended. Back on the mothership, Taijo stared at the damage assessment in disbelief. "This is impossible," he said. "The gravity cannon should have torn the entire island apart." Hyun looked, troubled. "Commander, I've been analyzing the data. Something about Earth's environment is interfering with our technology. All systems are showing reduced effectiveness." "Fix it," Taijo demanded. "We're trying, sir. But our technology was developed for our homeworld and the similar planets we've conquered. Earth has unique properties we didn't account for." Taijo paced the command deck. This was unprecedented. The Makari had never encountered a world where their technology was so hampered. "What about the humans?" he asked. "Their response to our demonstration?" Hyun brought up the global communications. "No panic, sir. Limited media coverage. Their governments appear to be controlling information flow, and their military forces they're moving into defensive positions we didn't anticipate. It's as if they studied our attack patterns." Taijo stopped pacing. "How is that possible? We've never encountered humans before." "I don't know, sir," Hyun admitted. "But I've been studying their fiction stories more deeply. Many of them depict scenarios remarkably similar to our standard tactics. It's almost as if what?" Taijo demanded. "As if they've been preparing for us without knowing exactly who we are," Hyun finished. For the first time since the Makari began their expansion, Grand Commander Taijo felt something unfamiliar: doubt. Grand Commander Taijo had run out of patience. The diplomatic meetings were going nowhere. The humans showed no signs of fear despite the demonstration on Jeju Island. It was time for the full invasion to begin. "Launch all dropships," he ordered. "Target every major human city simultaneously. We will show them that the Makari Empire cannot be resisted. Throughout the massive fleet, soldiers prepared for battle. Drop ships filled with troops and equipment detached from the larger vessels. Like rain, they began to fall toward Earth's surface. "Sir," Intelligence Officer Hyun reported, "our systems have detected unusual activity in Earth's digital networks. I believe they're attempting to hack our communication systems." Taejo dismissed her concern with a wave. "Primitive technology cannot breach our defenses. Focus on the invasion." But Hyun wasn't convinced. She monitored the strange signals bombarding their systems. The human attacks were surprisingly sophisticated, probing for weaknesses in ways she hadn't expected. Then something impossible happened. A human message appeared on her screen. "Hello, Makari friends." It read in perfect Makari language. "Perhaps we should talk before this goes any further." Hyun stared in shock. The humans had breached their supposedly impenetrable systems. In Seoul, Do-yoon Park led a team of the world's best hackers. They had spent the past 48 hours studying the Makari communication patterns, looking for any vulnerability. "We're in," Do-yoon announced as his code finally broke through. The room erupted in cheers. "Beginning data collection now." Screens around the room filled with Makari information, ship schematics, weapon systems, communication protocols. It was a treasure trove of intelligence. "How did you do it?" asked a young programmer beside him. Do-yoon smiled slightly. "Their encryption is advanced but rigid. They never expected anyone to crack it, so they never built in adaptive defenses. Humans have been hacking each other for decades. We're good at finding backdoors." He sent a message directly to the Makari mothership letting them know they weren't as protected as they thought. Then he downloaded as much data as possible before the aliens could lock him out. "Send everything to Dr. Kim's team," he instructed. "They'll know what to do with it." The Makari dropships descended toward Earth's major cities: Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London, Beijing, Moscow. In each location, they expected to find panicked civilians and scattered military resistance. Instead, they found emptiness. Commander Seojin led the Seoul invasion force personally. As his dropship touched down in what should have been the heart of the city, he was confused to find the streets largely abandoned. "Where are the humans?" one of his soldiers asked. "Scan for life signs," Seojin ordered. The readings showed few civilians in the area. Had they fled? Or had they been evacuated before the Makari even arrived? Seojin led his troops forward carefully. The quiet was unnerving. Then, from all directions, a strange sound filled the air. A high-pitched tone, almost at the edge of hearing. "What is that?" a soldier asked. Suddenly, Seojin felt his armor grow heavy. The sound increased in intensity and his weapon system flashed warnings. The shields were failing. Around him, other soldiers began struggling to move in their now cumbersome armor. "It's a trap," Seojin shouted into his comm. "The humans are using some kind of..." Before he could finish, the ground beneath them erupted. Not with explosions, but with water. Fire hydrants, sewer lines, water mains, all burst simultaneously, flooding the street. Under normal circumstances, this would be a minor inconvenience. But with their armor now weighing them down, several Makari soldiers found themselves struggling to stay upright. From buildings on all sides, human military forces appeared. They wore simple body armor and carried weapons that looked primitive at first glance. But when they fired, the weapons released not bullets but concentrated electromagnetic pulses. The pulses didn't damage the Makari directly, but they wreaked havoc on their technology. Shields flickered and died. Communication systems went silent. Gravity weapons refused to fire. In the mobile laboratory outside Seoul, Dr. Yoon-ho Kim monitored the battle through drone footage. Beside her, Colonel Min-jae watched with satisfaction. "The EMP weapons are working," he said. "Your frequency calculations were perfect." Yoon-ho nodded, but her focus was on the data flowing in from Do-yoon's team. "These schematics of their ships, it confirms my theory. Their power cores are vulnerable to our magnetic field. If we can amplify that effect..." "How?" Min-jae asked. Yoon-ho pointed to a map showing Earth's magnetic poles. "If we position enough emitters here, here, and here, we could create a resonance effect. Their ships would be unable to maintain power. Minjae immediately relayed the information to military command. Within minutes, orders were sent globally to deploy the necessary equipment. Similar scenes played out in cities around the world. The Makari, used to quick and easy victories, found themselves fighting an enemy who had seemingly prepared for their specific weaknesses. In Tokyo, their gravity weapons malfunctioned in the dense urban environment. In New York, their dropships struggled to maintain altitude in unusual air currents that hadn't appeared on their sensors. In London, their communication systems went completely dark, leaving units isolated and confused. In Beijing, their sensors could not penetrate the thick smog, making it impossible to distinguish between human soldiers and civilian mannequins, strategically placed to confuse them. In Moscow, the cold temperature made their armor brittle, causing it to crack under impact. Grand Commander Taijo watched with growing horror as reports of failures poured in from around the planet. This wasn't how invasions were supposed to go. The Makari always won easily. Always. How are they doing? This? He demanded of anyone who would listen. They're a primitive species. Hyun approached cautiously. Sir, I don't think they're as primitive as we assumed. Their technology is different from ours, not inferior. They've adapted to their planet in ways we haven't, and they're learning our weaknesses at an alarming rate. Impossible, Taijo insisted. No species learns that quickly. This one does, Hyun replied. And there's something else. The data I've gathered suggests they're sharing information globally in real time. Every encounter with our forces is analyzed, weaknesses identified, and countermeasures developed within hours. Taijo paced the command deck. Order all ground forces to withdraw. We'll regroup and try a different approach. Sir, another officer interrupted. We've lost contact with multiple dropships, and our long-range sensors are detecting unusual energy buildups at Earth's magnetic poles. Taijo turned to the main screen, which showed a map of Earth. Strange energy patterns were indeed forming at the northern and southern extremes of the planet. Whatever the humans were planning, it couldn't be good for the Makari. Commander Seojun was trapped. His force of 20 elite soldiers had been reduced to 12. 3 were dead, killed by simple projectile weapons that somehow penetrated their weakened shields. The rest were scattered or wounded. They had taken refuge in a large building, trying to regroup, but the humans had them surrounded. How is this happening? One of his soldiers asked, voice trembling. They're just humans. Seojun had no answer. Nothing in his training had prepared him for an enemy like this. The humans fought like they knew what was coming. They targeted exactly the right weaknesses, used exactly the right tactics. Commander, a soldier called out. There's someone approaching under a flag of truce. Seojun looked through a window. A lone human walked calmly toward their position carrying a white flag. It was the diplomat, Dr. Ji-woo Han. Let her approach, Seojun ordered. At this point, talking seemed better than continuing a losing battle. Ji-woo entered the building unarmed. She looked around at the wounded Makari soldiers without fear. Commander Seojun, she said, I've come to offer you a choice. You and your soldiers can surrender now and be treated according to our laws of war. Or you can continue fighting, but I should warn you that in approximately 30 minutes your ship's power systems will fail completely. Seojun stared at her. How could you possibly know that? Ji-woo smiled slightly. Because humans have been preparing for this day for generations. Not specifically for the Makari, but for any who might come to our world with conquest in mind. For the first time in his life, Commander Seojun considered the unthinkable option: surrender. Grand Commander Taijo faced the most difficult decision of his career. On the main screen of his command ship, reports from across Earth showed one failure after another. Makari forces were retreating or surrendering in multiple locations. Their technology, once thought unbeatable, was failing against the strange conditions of Earth and the surprisingly effective human countermeasures. The humans have activated some kind of planetary-scale electromagnetic field, reported a science officer. It's interfering with our power cores. Ships are losing power at an increasing rate. Impossible, Taijo muttered. But he knew it was true. The evidence was all around him. Warning lights flashed across the command deck. The mighty Makari fleet, conqueror of 342 worlds, was being defeated by a supposedly primitive species. "We still have one option," said Weapons Master Subin. "Full planetary bombardment. Our remaining gravity cannons have enough power for one massive strike. We can target their major population centers simultaneously." Taijo considered this. It would mean destroying much of the resources they had come to claim. It might even render the planet uninhabitable for years. But it would preserve the Makari's undefeated record. "Prepare the gravity cannons," Taijo ordered. "Target their largest cities." Around the command deck, officers moved to obey, but Intelligence Officer Hyun stepped forward. "Commander, with respect, I must object," she said firmly. Taijo turned to her in surprise. No one questioned his orders. "These humans have shown capabilities far beyond our intelligence reports," Hyun continued. "They anticipated our tactics. They adapted to our technology. They exploited weaknesses we didn't know we had. What makes you think they haven't prepared for this scenario as well?" Before Taijo could respond, a new alarm sounded. On the screen, a message appeared in Makari language. "Attention, Makari fleet. Your ship's navigation and weapons systems have been compromised. Please stand by for communication." The main screen changed to show a human face. It was Doyun Park, surrounded by his team of hackers. "Hello, Grand Commander Taijo," Doyun said. "I hope my pronunciation is acceptable. I've only been learning your language for 2 days." Taijo stared in disbelief. "How are you doing this? How are you in our systems?" Doyun smiled. "Your encryption was impressive, but not unbreakable. While you were focusing on ground battles, we were exploring your network. Right now, we have access to your navigation controls, your weapon systems, and your life support." "This is an act of war," Taijo shouted. "I believe you declared war when you entered our solar system with conquest in mind," Doyun replied calmly. "But we would prefer not to continue this conflict. Dr. Han is speaking with your ground commander now. We suggest you listen to our terms." The screen went dark, leaving Taijo in stunned silence. In Seoul, Commander Seojin sat across from Dr. Ji-woo Han in what had once been a bank building. His remaining soldiers stood nervously around the room, their weapons lowered. "Your people have fought well," Ji-woo said. "But surely you see that continuing is pointless." Seojin nodded slowly. His armor, once a source of pride, now felt heavy and uncomfortable in Earth's gravity. Without functioning power systems, it was more burden than protection. "How did you do it?" he asked. "How did humans defeat the Makari when so many other species failed?" Ji-woo considered her answer carefully. "I believe it's because we've been fighting ourselves for most of our history. We've had to become experts at adaptation, at finding weaknesses, at turning strengths into vulnerabilities." She paused, then continued. "But there's something else. Humans have always looked to the stars and wondered what was out there. We've imagined countless scenarios of first contact, many peaceful but many hostile. In a way, we've been preparing for your arrival for generations without even knowing you existed." Seojun found this difficult to understand. "You created stories about beings you had never met?" "Exactly," Ji-woo said. "And in doing so, we prepared ourselves psychologically for this moment. When you arrived, humans didn't panic because in a strange way we'd seen this before in our imagination." Before Seojun could respond, his communication device crackled to life. It was Grand Commander Taijo. "Commander Seojun." Taijo's voice was tight with anger. "The humans have somehow gained access to our ship's systems. We are negotiating with them. Stand by for further orders." Seojun looked at Ji-woo, who smiled slightly. "Your commander is speaking with our technical team. I believe they're explaining our terms." Dr. Yoon-ho Kim stood in the Global Command Center, watching as the electromagnetic field generators did their work. On the main screen, the Makari ships were visible as blips of light, their power systems fluctuating wildly. "It's working," she said to Colonel Min-jae. "Their ships are losing power at a steady rate. In about 20 minutes, they'll have only enough energy for basic life support." Min-jae nodded. And Do-yoon's team has control of their weapons systems? Complete control, Yoon-ho confirmed. They can't fire even if they wanted to. The colonel looked at the global map, where green indicators showed human forces successfully containing or accepting surrenders from Makari ground troops worldwide. It's almost hard to believe, he said quietly. We prepared for this scenario for 50 years, but I never truly expected it to happen in my lifetime. Yoon-ho looked at him curiously. When you say prepared, what exactly do you mean? These countermeasures seem too specific to have been developed quickly. Min-jae smiled. After World War II, several governments secretly established Project Sentinel. Its purpose was to prepare for potential extraterrestrial threats. Most people thought it was science fiction, but those in charge took it seriously. So all those movies and books about alien invasions, many were deliberate. Min-jae finished her thought. Ways to get the public thinking about scenarios without causing panic. Some of our best defensive ideas came from science fiction writers, who were secretly consultants for the project. Yoon-ho shook her head in amazement. Humans had been preparing for this day through fact and fiction alike. On the Makari mothership, Grand Commander Taejo had no choice but to accept the humans' terms. With his ships powerless and his ground forces defeated, continuing the fight would only lead to more Makari deaths. We agree to withdraw all forces from Earth's solar system, he said formally to the human negotiator on the screen. In exchange for the safe return of our troops and restoration of minimal power to our ships. The human, a high-ranking political leader, nodded. Those terms are acceptable. We will begin returning your ground forces immediately. Your ship's power will be restored to navigation systems only once you pass the orbit of Mars. It was humiliating, but Taejo had no alternatives. The great Makari Empire had suffered its first defeat. As the communication ended, Hyun approached him. Commander, there's something you should know. I've analyzed all the data from this encounter. The humans could have destroyed our fleet completely, but they chose not to. Taejo looked at her sharply. What are you saying? I'm saying they showed restraint. They defended their world without seeking vengeance or conquest in return. It's not a concept the Makari are familiar with. 1 week later, Dr. Ji Woo-han stood with Dr. Yoon-ho Kim, Do-yoon Park, and Colonel Min-jae as they watched the last Makari ships leave Earth's orbit. What do you think they'll tell the rest of their empire? Yoon-ho asked. The truth, I hope, Ji-woo replied. That Earth is not to be trifled with. Do-yoon grinned. And that humans aren't as primitive as they look. Colonel Min-jae remained serious. This won't be the last encounter. Now that the galaxy knows we're here and what we can do, others will come, some peaceful, some not. Then we'll be ready, Ji-woo said confidently. Humanity has always been good at adapting. As the Makari ships disappeared from view, Grand Commander Taejo stood at his window, watching the blue planet recede. For centuries, the Makari had believed themselves invincible, the rightful conquerors of the galaxy. Now they knew differently. In his log, Taejo made a final entry about Earth. This world is protected by a species unlike any we have encountered. They are not the strongest, or the most advanced, but they may be the most dangerous. They imagined their own destruction thousands of times, and in doing so, learned how to prevent it. The galaxy would be wise to leave them in peace. As the Makari fleet limped home, word spread across the stars. There was a small blue planet, in an unremarkable solar system that had done the impossible. It had defeated the invincible Makari Empire, and its name was Earth.